We've all been there. Dating someone who's showing all the signs, but hasn't actually said those three little words. And you're left wondering, is he falling for me or am I just reading into it? Here's the truth most guys don't say. I love you the moment they feel it. Why? Because for men, love often starts with action, not words. So if you're waiting for a grand declaration, you might miss the quiet clues that say way more than a sentence ever could. In this video, I'm going to give you 6 signs that show he's in love, even if he hasn't said it yet. And there's one very specific clue, the kind most women overlook, that will tell you his heart is already way ahead of his mouth. Let's dive in. When a man is falling in love, one of the clearest, yet most subtle signs is that he begins to prioritize you without needing to be asked. It doesn't come with fireworks or grand speeches. It often arrives quietly through his actions. He begins to carve out time for you in a way that seems effortless, not because he has to, because he wants to. You'll notice it in the little things. He texts first, he checks in during the day, and he starts including you in decisions that extend beyond just the next date. That's not just a guy who likes you. That's a man who's emotionally investing, whether he's admitted it to himself yet or not. This kind of prioritization isn't about dramatic gestures or constant availability. In fact, it's the opposite. It's subtle, intentional, and consistent. When a man starts to fall in love, you don't have to chase him for attention. He shows up, even when life is busy. He's not perfect. No one is. But he finds ways to make you feel seen, valued, and included. He's not disappearing for days only to return with an excuse. He's reliable. He remembers things you told him 2 weeks ago. He makes time even when it's inconvenient. He respects your time and doesn't take it for granted. That's someone who's not just trying to win you over for the moment. That's someone building emotional connection. One of the biggest mistakes people make is confusing affection with intention. Affection can feel good in the moment, but it's fleeting. Intention is deeper. It looks like planning ahead, showing up when he says he will, and making sure you feel like a priority, not a backup plan. A man in love will adjust his schedule for you. He won't constantly push you to the sidelines with, "Work's just really crazy right now," or "Let's play it by ear." Instead, he'll say, "I've got a lot going on, but I still want to see you. How about Friday?" That's not about being clingy. It's about making room for someone because you matter. This kind of prioritization also shows up in how he responds to your needs. He listens when you speak. If you mention that you've had a stressful day, he checks in again later just to see how you're doing. If you casually say that your favorite band is coming to town, don't be surprised if he brings it up again and suggests going. These small actions reflect something deeper, emotional presence. He's tuned into what you're saying, not just the words, but the feelings behind them. The most powerful part, he's doing it all without expecting anything in return. He's not keeping score. He's not acting like this because he thinks it'll get him something from you. He's doing it because he wants to, because his emotional attachment to you is growing and it feels natural to invest. That's what love does. It changes how we prioritize people. When someone matters to us, we start building our life around them in ways that feel almost automatic. That's the sign to look for. Not the loud declarations or over-the-top moves, but the steady, thoughtful effort that shows you're already becoming part of his world. He's falling for you. He just might not have said it yet. But his actions, they're already shouting it. When a man is truly falling in love, one of the most telling signs isn't what he says in the heat of the moment. It's what he chooses to reveal when no one else is watching. Vulnerability is often a quiet, delicate doorway that men don't walk through easily. Society teaches men to stay guarded, to be strong, and to show confidence at all times. But love has a way of softening that armor. When he starts opening up to you in ways that he doesn't with others, when he shares his fears, failures, insecurities, and dreams. Not just the polished, Instagram-worthy versions of himself. That's not casual. That's emotional intimacy. And emotional intimacy is one of the earliest, strongest signs of real love. A man might laugh with everyone, flirt with many, and even spend time with multiple people. But he won't let just anyone see behind the curtain. The moment he starts pulling you into that inner world, the parts of him that are unfiltered, the things he's still trying to figure out, that's when you know this is something deeper. It's not just physical attraction or convenience, it's trust. And trust is a foundation love cannot exist without. You might notice it subtly at first. Maybe he tells you about a bad relationship with a family member, or a time he failed at something important to him. Maybe he talks about his fears about the future, or his insecurities that he hides from the world. He might admit that he doesn't have everything figured out. These conversations aren't random. They're meaningful, and they come from a place of emotional courage. To be vulnerable is to risk. And when a man is willing to risk being seen fully, flaws and all, it means he's beginning to feel emotionally safe around you. That safety is rare. It's valuable. And it's one of the clearest signs that he's falling in love. It's not always dramatic, either. Sometimes, vulnerability looks like him admitting he's had a hard day, or confessing that he doesn't always know how to handle conflict. It can be as simple as him saying, "I'm scared of losing control," or "Sometimes I don't feel good enough." These are not things most men say casually or lightly. They say them when they feel deeply connected to someone, when they trust that the person they're opening up to won't use that vulnerability against them, but instead will hold space for it. The beautiful part, when a man allows himself to be vulnerable, he's not just revealing himself to you, he's also inviting you into a deeper emotional bond. He's saying, "Here's who I am beyond the surface. Can you still care for me here?" And if you do, if you respond with empathy, curiosity, and acceptance, you're building something that goes far beyond surface attraction. You're forming a real emotional connection. That's when love starts to grow, not just for you, but within him too. Because love doesn't thrive where we're just admired. It thrives where we're understood. So if he hasn't said, "I love you," yet, but he's letting you into parts of himself that are tender, uncertain, or unfinished, don't ignore it. That's not just emotional sharing. That's the sound of his walls coming down. That's the space where love begins. And even if he doesn't yet have the words, his vulnerability is speaking volumes. It's revealing a man who's not just close to you, but connected to you, deeply, quietly, and very possibly permanently. When a man is in love, or even beginning to fall in love, there's a fundamental shift in how he sees your emotions. It's no longer just about being there when things are going well or enjoying the easy, fun parts of the relationship. A man who's emotionally invested starts to care not just about what happens to you, but how it feels to be you. He becomes attuned to your emotional well-being, and that's when you'll notice something powerful. He starts protecting your heart, not just your body. This kind of protection isn't about being macho or stepping in during physical threats. It's much more subtle, but also much more meaningful. It shows up when he listens carefully to what's bothering you, even if he doesn't have the perfect answer. It shows up when he chooses his words thoughtfully, especially when he knows you're feeling sensitive or vulnerable. He doesn't brush off your feelings or make you feel dramatic. Instead, he leans in. He takes your emotions seriously, even when he doesn't fully understand them. And he adjusts his behavior because he genuinely doesn't want to cause you pain. This level of emotional presence requires maturity. It's easy to show up when everything's light and flirty, but love begins to reveal itself when things get more complex. Maybe you've had a tough day and you're not your usual self. Maybe you're feeling insecure or anxious about something unrelated to him. A man who truly cares doesn't make that about him. He doesn't dismiss it or avoid it. He slows down, he pays attention, and most importantly, he responds. That might mean holding space for you to vent, offering quiet reassurance, or simply asking, "What do you need right now?" In a world where many people are used to performing emotional self-sufficiency. This kind of care feels rare and even confusing. You might be tempted to brush it or assume he's just being nice. But don't miss what's happening underneath. A man who's beginning to fall in love will go out of his way to avoid hurting you, even in the smallest ways. If he notices you felt uncomfortable during a conversation, he may circle back later just to check in. If he knows something bothers you, whether it's a habit, a trigger, or a past experience, he doesn't push the line or test your boundaries. He respects them, and not out of obligation, but because your emotional comfort has started to matter more to him than his own convenience. You'll also see this in how he handles conflict. A man who's falling in love doesn't fight to win, he fights to understand. He cares less about being right and more about maintaining the emotional safety of the connection. Even when he's upset, he's aware of how his words affect you. He tries to communicate, not destroy. That's love at work, not in its most glamorous form, but in its most important one. He may not have said the words, but this behavior says it all. When a man begins protecting your emotional space, it means you're no longer just someone he enjoys, you're someone he values, someone whose peace matters to him. And when that happens, he doesn't just become a good partner, he becomes a safe place. That's not something he can fake, and it's not something he'll do for just anyone. This isn't casual, it's care, it's connection, and more than likely it's love, just waiting for the words to catch up. When a man is falling in love, he starts noticing things most people miss. It's not just about the big romantic gestures or the obvious signs of affection. It's about the little moments, the subtle details, the offhand comments you didn't even realize you made. He remembers the song you said reminds you of childhood. He recalls that you prefer your coffee with just a splash of almond milk. He brings up that one place you said you've always wanted to visit. These aren't coincidences. They're reflections of emotional attention, and they say more about his feelings than he may be ready to put into words. This kind of memory isn't just about having a good brain. It's about focus. When a man is truly interested, you occupy mental space even when you're not around. He's not just listening to what you say. He's absorbing it, tucking it away, because somewhere inside it's already meaningful to him. This emotional noticing is one of the earliest and clearest indicators that he's forming a real attachment. When someone remembers the things that aren't headline-worthy, it means they're paying attention not just to the performance of who you are, but to the reality, the quiet, authentic pieces of you. And that kind of noticing only happens when real feelings are involved. Often, this shows up in completely ordinary situations. You're having a casual conversation and mention a book you've been meaning to read. A week later, he sends you a link to it. You tell him about a difficult meeting at work, and a few days later, he asks how it went. You might even forget that you told him something, only to be surprised when he brings it up. That's the clue. He's not just listening, he's holding on to it. Because in his world, your words have weight. You can also see this in the way he connects dots. Maybe you've talked about wanting to spend more time outdoors, and the next time he plans a date, it's a walk in the park or a hike. Or perhaps you once mentioned how much you love a specific kind of flower, and out of nowhere, he brings them to you. It's not about extravagance. It's about recognition. He's not trying to impress you with how much he spends or how grand the gesture is. He's showing you, I see you. I hear you. I remember you. That's intimacy. And it's one of the clearest signs he's developing deep feelings. What's powerful about this is that it bypasses the need for performance or pressure. He doesn't need to say, I love you, just yet. Because in a way, he already is, through action. In remembering and responding to these small details, he's building a private language between you. It's a language of care, presence, and emotional investment. And that's not something people fake well over time. It either comes naturally or it doesn't come at all. If you're wondering where he stands, look at what he remembers. Not just the big milestones or what he's supposed to notice, but the random, personal, even silly things you've shared in passing. If he brings them up, weaves them into conversation, or uses them to make you smile, he's showing his heart. Not loudly, not dramatically, but honestly. That kind of awareness doesn't come from obligation or flirtation. It comes from someone who's paying attention because you've already taken root in his world. And whether he's said it out loud yet or not, that kind of presence is one of love's quietest, strongest forms. One of the most telling signs that a man is falling in love, even if he hasn't said the words, is when he shows up when it's inconvenient. It's easy to be present when everything is going well, when you're happy, dressed up, and ready for a night out. But love doesn't reveal itself in the perfect moments, it shows up in the hard ones. When a man chooses to be by your side, not just when it's fun or effortless, but when it's uncomfortable, stressful, or messy, it says more than any romantic gesture ever could. Think about it. Anyone can plan a great date or send a sweet text when they're in the mood. But what about when you're having a terrible day and you're not your best self? What about when you're sick, overwhelmed, or just emotionally drained? If he's still showing up, offering support, not judgment, that's when you know something deeper is happening. He's not there because he's expecting something in return or because it benefits him. He's there because you matter to him, even when being there isn't convenient or rewarding. This is a powerful emotional clue that love is forming. People don't inconvenience themselves consistently for someone they don't care deeply about. A man who's falling in love doesn't check in when it fits neatly into his schedule. He makes space when you need him, even if it means rearranging his own plans. It might be as simple as driving across town late at night just to be with you when you've had a rough day, or canceling something important because he knows you need someone to talk to. These moments often go unnoticed because they're not grand or flashy, but they are the most honest reflections of love taking root. And this doesn't just apply to emotional support. It also shows up when he engages with parts of your life that don't directly involve him. Maybe he joins you at a family event that makes you nervous, or sits through something you care about even if it's not his thing. Maybe he listens to your worries even when he's exhausted, or helps you solve a problem even though it would be easier to say, "You'll figure it out." These choices require effort. They require patience. Most of all, they require emotional commitment. It's important to remember that real love isn't always convenient. It often asks for our time, energy, and attention in moments when we'd rather pull away. So, when you see a man leaning in, not just when it's easy, but when it's hard, you're seeing something rare. You're seeing that he's emotionally invested in your well-being and that he values the connection enough to put in work, even when it's uncomfortable. Sometimes, the most meaningful moments aren't the ones you expect. You might find yourself sitting on the couch in pajamas, crying about something you can't quite explain, and he's just there. Quiet, patient, present. Or maybe it's a moment when things go wrong. Your car breaks down, you miss a flight, you're stressed about your job, and he doesn't disappear or minimize it. He shows up, he offers to help, he stays close. And in doing so, he's communicating a very clear message. You're not alone. I'm here, even when it's hard. That's love in action. It's not always glamorous, but it's real. And while he might not have said the words yet, these moments are his way of proving them. Because when someone chooses to be there, not out of obligation, but from a place of genuine care, that's not just affection. That's devotion. That's love, long before it's ever spoken out loud. When a man is falling in love, his vision of the future subtly begins to shift. Without even realizing it, he starts placing you in the picture. You'll hear it in the way he talks. Casual references to future plans that include you, not as an afterthought, but as part of the foundation. He might say things like, "We should go there sometime," or "You'd love that place," or even just mention next month, next season, or next year with the quiet assumption that you'll be there too. That's not just habit or politeness. That's his way of emotionally anchoring you into what's coming next. This kind of future talk isn't always dramatic. It's rarely about weddings or moving in together in the early stages. But it's deeply revealing, because men don't typically include someone in their long-term thoughts unless they feel a real connection. If he's planning a trip and asks if you'd want to join, or if he mentions how you'd fit into a holiday with his family, that's not just logistical, that's emotional investment. He's beginning to imagine a life where you're not just someone he sees now and then, but someone who's consistently part of his journey. You'll also notice how he starts to align his plans with yours. Maybe he's thinking about changing jobs, moving cities, or taking on a new project. If he brings it up and genuinely wants to hear your thoughts, not just to inform you, but because your opinion matters, that's a sign you've become more than a temporary presence in his life. He's weighing your feelings in decisions that don't strictly involve you, which means on some level, he sees you as part of his bigger picture. Another subtle clue is how he uses language. Words like we, Hoss, and horse begin to replace and me. It might sound small, but it's a mental shift. When he starts seeing you as a team, even in everyday scenarios, he's showing you that his mind is moving toward partnership, not just companionship. Maybe he talks about what we should cook this weekend, or what or trip might look like. It's these little shifts in speech that often reveal the bigger shifts in feeling. This doesn't mean he's planning a proposal or ready to make declarations of lifelong love, but it does mean he's emotionally attaching. Love often starts in small visions, imagining how you'll spend a weekend together, wondering how you'd fit into a friend group or family dinner, or even picturing how you'd react to a future experience. These thoughts aren't shared with just anyone. When he lets you in on them, it's because you've already become part of the inner circle of his emotional world. Pay attention, too, to how he reacts when you talk about your future. If he seems curious, supportive, and especially if he asks questions to understand how he might fit in, that's a sign of alignment. He's not just interested in who you are now, but in who you're becoming, and how the two of you could grow together. That's a big deal, because love doesn't stay static. It deepens when two people can envision growing in the same direction. So if you're wondering how he feels, and he hasn't said, "I love you," yet, listen to the way he speaks about the future. Not just the concrete plans, but the tone, the comfort, the openness, the quiet assumption that you're going to be there. That kind of talk doesn't come from someone who's keeping things casual. It comes from someone who's letting his guard down, letting you in, and building something that already extends beyond the present. Even if he hasn't said the words, his future focus is telling you everything you need to know. So, there you have it. 6 powerful signs that he's falling in love with you, even if he hasn't said it yet. It's not always about the words. It's about the way he prioritizes you, opens up, protects your heart, remembers the little things, shows up when it's hard, and starts including you in his future. If you're paying attention to these clues, you're seeing love quietly unfolding right in front of you. Remember, love often starts in actions before it finds its voice. Trust the signs, trust your intuition, and know that sometimes the heart speaks loudest in what it does, not just what it says.